Hello everyone, this is part 40 of What If Naruto Failed and Chose a Different Path, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. Be sure to like and subscribe, it gives me more motivation. Enjoy. Naruto, family, and future wives were all sitting together in the Namikaze estate in the main living room, as it was time to discuss the one most important thing that could not be put off anymore. After all that had happened with Sasuke, Orochimaru, finding Tsunade to be Hokage, and now with this Trigon business with Naruto's psychotic grandfather, it couldn't be held up out of fear it would never happen. The wedding of Hinata, Haku, Temari, Tenten, Ino, Hana, Kin, and Tayuya to one and only Namikaze Uzumaki Naruto was being discussed. They were all talking about dates, times, and possibly locations where it could be done without threat of the girl's husband to be being attacked by his enemies. Plus, when the wedding took place, it would have to be done in secret, as everyone who knew the group would want to come to the wedding too. We should have it in Wave Country. The people over there love Naruto and it's mostly an island with only the one bridge, so we would be safe, said Ino, hearing about the big battle Naruto and his group had while on a mission there and how the people named the bridge after him. As much as I want to give Wave Country that honor, I can't, since my enemies do not need the bridge to cross over, and they will no doubt hear about the wedding mere days before we have it. They don't need to be precise in trying to K me, as long as they do, and that's what they will try to do when they find out about the wedding. Everyone that comes to the wedding that is civilian will be said in the battle against Al the ninja Danzo team sends out against us. Not to mention my grandfather will not miss the ever important opportunity to strike at that moment, capturing me and killing all of you in the process, said Naruto, knowing that lots of people, who knew him both in the village, and out of it, would be lambs to the S. What about Spring Country? We could have it in the prestige castle of Princess Yuki herself. After the mission me and Slade-kun went on 3 years ago, I don't think she'll mind having the wedding there, said Kurenai, purring into her lover's NS while Slade simply massaged her even more swole legs now that she was a fox demon like him. Not everyone has the resources to make the trip to Spring Country, Kurenai-san, so we can't do that either, said Haku, seeing the look on Cogs working under Naruto's face, as they both knew, thinking the same thing. Haku's right. Don't forget this S isn't going to be cheap either, and I don't think we can keep it under wraps within the time frame we want it, said Tayuya, who was now trying to give up cursing since it wouldn't be healthy for her kids in the future to learn them at such a young age. Though Tayuya suspected they would when she was in labor and had more than one with Naruto. It has to be someplace that's just screams out perfect for a wedding and someplace we can all agree on as a whole, said Temari, with Ino nodding her head in agreement, being the one with fashion sense, as she liked to call it. Shikamaru would have called it troublesome, thus earning him Ino's fist to his head. What about the time that we have the wedding? Naruto-kun can't get married until after I turn 16, and that is only a few months away, said Hinata, who silently wished the days would go faster so she could reach the legal age for marriage, and then get married right away. If you want, Hinata, we can have the wedding a week right after your birthday as the first wedding of the new year, said Naruto, knowing that since Hinata and Haku were going to be the official women of this harem, allowing them to have more say in this than the others since they were the first among the group to have the chance to marry him. That would be wonderful, Naruto-kun, said Hinata, as she could celebrate the new year with Naruto-kun like it was the start of something new. I agree with Hinata as well, said Haku, and the other girls nodded in agreement as well. Okay, so we have the wedding date down, but we still haven't found a decent enough location for it yet, said Kin, getting frustrated on places they could have the wedding. How can a 16-year-old have so many enemies? If this continues to be a problem, then we may not be able to have everyone we wanted to come to the wedding, said Tenten, sadly wondering how so many friends and allies that they or Naruto could make it to this thing yet not tip off any of their enemies about it. We cannot just leave them all out of this, Tenten. It would break their hearts at not being to this event, said Kin, letting out a sigh before leaning back on the comfy couch trying to think of a way they could bring this all together. I've got it, said Naruto, snapping his fingers, and his eyes shined like he had just been struck by lightning. What is it, Naruto-kun? said Hana, seeing that look before, meaning the young man was onto something. We go to other world. We have the wedding on Grand Kai's planet, said Naruto with a smile on his face, and he saw the other's eyes widen at the revelation. Yeah, that is a kick-ass idea. None of those asshole enemies of ours can get there since it's all holy and said Taiuya, liking the sound of the idea just from the sound of it. We wouldn't need to put too much effort into it since those guys can do it for us. Those flowers on the planet are perfect for us having an outside wedding. Even the Grand Kai himself could wed us off so it become official on a universal scale, said Ino, picturing the wedding with stars in her eyes and the thought of marrying Naruto on that very spot. Incidentally, Ino's dream also had a funeral on the other side of the planet for the other brides of the harem, who SD of unknown circumstances. But what about people outside the village getting to other world? I don't mean to doubt the idea, but they have no way to get to there, said Hana, hating being the roadblock at the moment of possibly having the perfect location for the wedding. Instant transmission, said Naruto simply, as if it were the easiest answer in the world. What? Said most of the girls, since not all of them had experienced it except for 2 of them. It's a technique I learned from another fighter while in other world during my 3 years recovering and training. As long as someone is holding on to me, they are connected to me like a link in a chain, and when I use the instant transmission they can travel with me to other world. The other fighter and myself can use the technique to pick up people to transport them directly from wherever they are among the elemental countries, and take them to other world for the wedding, said Naruto, smiling at the girl's overall expression at how he described it. Take me there now, said Hana after immediately tackled him, holding on to him for dear life. Calm yourself, lady. We all know why you want him to do it, but damn, could you wait until after the wedding to get into his pants like the rest of us, said Taiuya, who laughed at Hana's red face, only to be hit in her own by a lamp the Inuzuka soon threw at her. Go play with your flute, said Hana before turning to Naruto and smiling seductively at him, hoping her charms would convince him to cave just this once before the wedding. Like Taiuya, said Hana, you have to wait like everyone else, said Naruto, smiling at the woman, who let out a dog-like whimper at being denied what she really wanted to have right now. Must be the dog's side of her that's causing this, thought everyone else, as they sweat dropped at the Hana's actions. Naruto-sama, if I may be so bold to ask, but won't your enemies soon discover we are all missing and prey on that to attack Konoha? Said Kimimaro, who hoped his opinion on this didn't get him ked. Not if we keep it so tight-lipped that none of them know when it is. All they will know is that there will be a wedding, just not the when, where, what, and who part, said Naruto calmly, knowing that eventually the news of the wedding would get out, but his enemies would be too hesitant to strike if they didn't know the exact date of the wedding. What about the invitations? Said Kin, knowing that if one were to get into the hands of the enemy it would be a disaster. Damn, that's a tricky one. We just can't say. You are invited to a wedding that will take place on a planet located in another dimension you go to when said Taiuya, as her mood was lowered again. I can take care of that too, said Naruto, crossing his arms confidently. What? How? Said the girls, wondering if there wasn't a thing in this world the man they were to soon marrying couldn't do. They hoped not. Simple. I use the Toad and Fox summons to visit everyone. They then write down who is coming and then they come back to tell us, so they can all be picked up on the day of the wedding, said Naruto, knowing that from reading about traditional planning of weddings that writing invitations was a huge hassle. Naruto-kun, you're a genius, said Hana, tackling him yet again. Amazingly, the rest of the women followed. Should we have a wedding like Naruto is going to have, or are you happy the way things are? Said Slade, wondering if he should marry Kurenai, officially, in terms of the living world rules. No, thank you for asking, but I like things just the way they are, said Kurenai softly into his ears, knowing that Slade wanted to make her even happier. Me too, said Slade, watching the large pile of women covering Naruto, who despite his all-powerful strength was no match for the girls he was going to marry. Sound Village. Danzo looked over the reports of how his troops were growing and was pleased with the end results, as his route Anbu he took with him when he left had helped fill the gap of the forces Orochimaru lost trying to K the Yondaime sun. Other reports from Koharu and Homura told him Iwa was building up its forces one more time to get ready for a possible confrontation with the Leaf, and Kumo was as well, but had lost track of their own demon vessel known as Niyugito. Anbu, said Danzo, snapping his fingers, making his elite unit appear before him. Yes, Danzo-sama, said the Anbu captain, kneeling with the rest of his unit. Find the demon vessel from Kumo. I want to use her for experimentation and possibly a future weapon against Konoha, said Danzo, smiling wickedly at the thought of such a vessel under his supreme command. Right away, Danzo-sama, said the Anbu captain before the group departed to seek out the Nibi vessel. Soon I will have weapon at my disposal that, given enough training, will make even that demon brat in Konoha and Akatsuki fear me, said Danzo, smiling at the picture of what apparently was the Nibi vessel. Iwa, I told you I wanted the damn son of the Yondaime-s. Yet you all failed to even try and find him when he was gone for nearly 3 years. Now the brat is fully healed from his wounds and has gotten stronger, yet you were unable to find him during that time. Did you even try to find out where he went during those 3 years? Said Tsuchikage, glaring at his Anbu unit as they cowered before his rage after finding out that the Yondaime's son had returned to Konoha. We tried, Tsuchikage-sama, but our search ended soon after it had begun. It was as if he vanished into thin air during the 3 years he was gone. No one has seen, heard, or spoken to the Yondaime's son during that entire time frame he was missing, said the Anbu captain, knowing it wasn't his team's fault, but to say that would be close enough in terms of treason to have his cage gut him like a fish for that. Well, now he's back in Konoha again with his future wives. I want the bastard child and his head brought before me so I can mount it on a pike for all of Iwa to see, said the Tsuchikage, wanting result, not excuses from incompetent shinobi. Yes, Tsuchikage-sama, we will prepare a strike force immediately, said the Anbu captain before his team departed from the Iwa cage's site. Soon I will have my revenge on you, Yondaime. You took my son during the war and now I will take yours by any means necessary, said the Tsuchikage, his mind long since been warped from years of hatred for the yellow flash of Konoha. Kumo, what do you mean Niyugito has gone rogue? You were supposed to be watching her. How could you have let this happen? Said the Raikage, infuriated at the report he had just gotten about his prized demon vessel. She overpowered us, Raikage-sama. We were escorting her back to her room, when she started wobbling, as if she were ill, and before we could see what was happening, it was too late, said the Anbu captain, knowing that there had been shinobi cared in Kumo for less. She was our prized weapon, you fool. Had the caping worked all those years ago, we could have eventually tried to crossbreed Yugito's demonic powers with Hyuga blood to create a new bloodline. Now Kumo will be even weaker than were after the last shinobi war, said the Raikage before calling in a group of Kumo hunter ninjas he had for just this sort of emergency. You called Raikage-sama, said the hunter ninja captain, kneeling like the other before the lighting shadow. Take your team along with this Anbu squad with you to find Niyugito and bring her to me. I want to know why she ran away and I want her brought back here both alive and unspoiled, or heads will roll if the opposite of what I have asked of you happens, said the Raikage, making the group of shinobi before him shiver in fear. Yes, Raikage-sama, said the hunter ninja captain before the two groups, now acting as one, left without another word. Hokage's office 2 days later. So you think Konoha could have another ally on its hands if we rescue her? Said Naruto to Tsunade, looking at the photo of the woman with a Kumo headband on her head. She is just like you and Gaara were originally, with your demons being sealed inside of you. However, due to her being older than both of you, her demon is more absorbed into her body, and it is rumored that she can command her demonic powers from the Nibi cat demon, said Tsunade, mentally thanking Jiraiya's spy network for this information. Unfortunately, I can't go, as much as I want to. Outside problems are too high risk at the moment, preventing me from going outside the village. I think you should send a well-skilled team of shinobi, who understand her, as a way to convince her to come to our side. We need Gaara, Kimimaro, with Neji, and Anko to find her, since we're most likely not the only village looking for her in terms of recruitment, said Naruto, knowing that Sound would see this Niyugito as a potential weapon and Kumo would mostly likely send a well-skilled team of their own. You want her to see that people like her can be accepted in Konoha, said Tsunade, as she nodded at the concept, since most of the arrogant villagers and shinobi over the years had been taken care of one way or another. I would like to go to in order to help convince her, but the reports of Iwa gearing up to take me out at the command of their Tsuchikage. You have to thank Jiraiya for that info, just so I don't have to remind you later on in the day, said Naruto, smirking at the sour look Tsunade was sporting at that last part. How about I just hit him with only half of my strength next time and call it even? Said Tsunade, as she didn't want to thank him for the information in terms of going on a date with him. Nice try, but I think a date with him seems more appropriate since he won't stop until he gets at least one date with you before he said Naruto, knowing that Jiraiya would not be able to peacefully until he got the date he always wanted from the female fire shadow. Damn, said Tsunade, as Jiraiya and her had made a deal that if he could give her some important information to her concerning Konoha, then she would go on a date with him. At first, Tsunade responded to the deal by simply punching the man out of her office, through 2 buildings, and 1 building meant to be destroyed by a genin team later in the day. Feeling like things weren't going to go his way, Jiraiya pleaded, begged on his hands and knees, with Naruto to be his negotiator on his behalf, and convinced Tsunade that such a deal would be worth the risk. In the end, Naruto relented, only because seeing a man in his 50s weeping like a little boy while grabbing onto your leg as you walked was just not right. To be honest, Naruto didn't see what the problem was, since all he had to do was make the deal sound like a bet and got the old hag hooked on the idea instantly. Would it be so bad to go on a date with him? At least this way you help all the women in Konoha from being peeped on. Including my future wives, said Naruto, knowing that Jiraiya wouldn't peep on his wives intentionally, but for safety reasons, he still had to bring the fear of Kami into the man. It was easy when you had a pipe, twisted it, and then pointed to the super pervert's manhood, signifying what would happen if caught peeping on them. Needless to say, Jiraiya got the message. Well, I suppose someone has to take pity on the man and go on a date with the man, even if he is the world's biggest pervert. He better be paying, said Tsunade, who like Jiraiya would likely try to leave unsuspecting sap with their bill, and considering that they would go on a date soon left many to wonder if that would happen here. Naruto could only chuckle at the look of mock seriousness on her face, wondering if the woman was going to let the super pervert live through the night during the date. Though whether she did or not, chances were that Jiraiya would end up in the hospital before the date was through. I saw Lee with the Isaribi woman today. She's a fine catch for him, said Naruto, having been away during the 3 years had done much in terms of losing track of his friends. Oh, those 2 met when I sent Guy's team, Anko, and Kimimaro for a raid on a base that Orochimaru once held for conducting experiments in Tea Country. Isaribi was just one of those people he experimented on, and it broke Lee's heart to see her mistreated for how she looked. Based on the report Kimimaro gave me since he volunteered to, the girl was a test to see if the sharp qualities that Kisame possesses could be artificially duplicated, and she was turned into a failed experiment. I had to do surgery on the poor girl when they brought her back here, but when it was over, she looked a lot more human than fish, and she still has the power to breathe underwater, said Tsunade, who remembered how the girl was afraid at first to be seen due to the bandages she wore afterwards, but Lee had been supportive, and told her she looked even more youthful than before. Yeah, those 2 are inseparable. I also heard that Itachi is going to be a father soon, said Naruto, having heard that Ayami was pregnant with Itachi's child. Yes, it's a shame you missed the wedding though, due to your condition, training, and your dates with your wives prevented you from being there, said Tsunade, knowing that the schedule Naruto kept the past 3 years had isolated him from people outside of his family. Yeah, but I saw the photos my dad took, so I got the next best thing, said Naruto, as he had wished to be there to see the 2 off, knowing that he could have been the best man at the wedding. Your future wives nearly tore the poor place apart just to get to that beautiful bouquet Ayami threw over her head at the end, said Tsunade, seeing them go into an all-out battle royal only to have it land in the shared hands of Anko and Tsunami. The look on Zabuza's face was priceless, making Kisame fall over laughing his ass off when he saw it before the demon of the leaf kicked the shark hard in the ass. Yeah, well, they learned their lesson after you gave them the distinct honor of cleaning up the place, giving it as a D-ranked mission, said Naruto, remembering how he saw Tayuya, Ino, Kin, and Hana had set up several training dummies in the training grounds behind the estate to work with, while having Tsunade's face imprinted on it, looking pretty battered. Nice try, Naruto, but I saw the training dummies with my image on them, said Tsunade, as she had been using her time trying to avoid the Namika's estate after she assigned the D-ranked mission, knowing she would never make it out of there alive if she did. Thank you, I like to think that I did. But in all seriousness, how do you intend to handle Sound, Danzo, and his 2 loyal puppets that used to be old man Sarutobi's teammates, said Naruto, wondering how they could deal with Sound so they could direct more of their resources at Iwa and his grandfather. While we try to get Niyugito to come over to Konoha, you need to prepare a suitable offense or defense for yourself against the Iwa strike force aimed at you, and make sure that they get sent home in body bags, said Tsunade, getting a serious nod from Naruto, who knew that such annoyances like the Iwa's strike force needed to be dealt with both harshly as well as immediately. If push came to shove, Naruto may have to resort to crushing Iwa permanently. Konoha 1 week later. Naruto was sitting at one of the many training grounds in deep meditation, when he had sensed an impressively large chakra signature headed his way, and sensed the group itself that was the source of it, was not friendly in the slightest. All the young shinobi could do was smile, as he waited for the large shinobi force to head in his direction, and prepared himself for the thing he would have to do. Namikaze Naruto, I presume, said the Iwa Anbu captain hatefully, as he unsheathed his katana, and his team followed in drawing their weapons. You Iwa teams are late. I expected you 3 days ago. What took you so long in the first place? Said Naruto calmly, as he got up from his mediating position, and unsheathed his own sword. You brat. When we get through with you, you'll be begging at our feet for death, said an Iwa Anbu with 2 kamas in his hands. If you wish to try and destroy me, then so be it, but do not hold me responsible for being your destroyer right before you, said Naruto, as his voice became cold, and his eyes were alive like unearthly fire. K him, yelled the Anbu captain, as his team of a dozen, himself included, of his fellow Anbu shinobi charged at the young Namikaze. Fools! Sword of the darkness flame! Said Naruto, igniting his blade with the dark fire from his right arm before he moved with blinding speed, destroying his enemies before him. In the end there was only one remaining. You're a monster, said the last Iwa shinobi, backing up slightly in fear at what this thing could possibly do to him if he stayed. So what if I am a monster to you? One person's monster can be another person's hero. I know you hate my father because of how many people he killed on your side, but he took no pleasure in it. Whatever hatred you have towards my father is pointless to have, since it will get you nowhere, but in a body bag, said Naruto, pointing his sword at Iwa Anbu, who backed away into a nearby tree. Are you going to kill me? Said the Iwa shinobi, nervously wondering if the boy would gut him like a fish and watch him burn with that dark fire surrounding his sword. No, I will show you mercy to prove to you that I hold no ill will towards you or Iwa, but in return, I want you to tell your cage to leave me, my father, and my future wives alone. If the Tsuchikage sends you here again or any other Iwa shinobis for whatever reason to kill all those I hold dear, I'll destroy them, then your cage, and finally all of Iwa before my bloodlust leaves me. That is my promise to you, and you better tell him that after I let you leave to return to him, said Naruto, as the dark fire from his sword left his blade before sheathing the weapon, and turning away from the Iwa shinobi sensed the man run as fast as his body would allow. At best, Iwa would no longer be a threat to his loved ones. At worst, well, King Yema was just going to have to deal with a long line of souls later on in other world. Fire Country, unknown location. Ni Yugito was not having a good day. She had left the service of Kumo after she heard the rumor of a member of Akatsuki was hunting her to extract the demon inside of her. The Raikage didn't care, of course, having told him about it only for him to scoff at the idea of his prized weapon being defeated so easily regardless of who it was that was after her. The Lightning Shadow seemed to think she was replaceable or that she was better than her would-be KPER, but beneath him all the same. Her life growing up wasn't exactly pleasant either, as she was the victim of many attacks on her life, which were all stopped by the Raikage, and for that she had been grateful. However, during the last 3 years, Yugito had made a horrible discovery concerning her cage that gave her the push to leave his services as Kumo's prized demon vessel. She had learned that the Raikage had ordered those attacks to jumpstart the Nibi inside of her to giving her its powers. The man she thought had been her shield of protection from the cruelty from the people in Kumo was in fact the sword that had hurt her again and again. Realizing she was not safe in Kumo from either side, Yugito put her plan into action to acquire her freedom, and after tricking her guards made it out of the village. Of course, once free, she realized that the easy part was over, since the hard part was finding proper sanctuary without revealing what she was, and hoped to keep a lower profile as possible. Now she was in some tree-filled area in Fire Country, hoping that being across the border would prevent the side heading toward her from Kumo from pursuing her further. She was wrong, as the Raikage had told them to retrieve her at all cost, meaning pursue her into the enemy country. You can run, demon, but you can't hide, said a Kumo hunter in among the group that was trying to bring her back to the Raikage. Great. Just great. The asshole sent a group of shinobi that hates my guts after me. For once I would like to catch a break, thought Yugito, wondering if this day could get any worse. It did when she saw Sound Anbu with the word, root, labeled on their masks. Ni Yugito and vessel of the Nibi Cat Demon, you are to come with us willingly Danzo-sama or we will take you by force, said the Sound Anbu root captain, who saw the group from Kumo closing in on them. Why, I can sense ill will from you just as I did from Kumo's group. If I go with you, then your leader, this Danzo will try to use me as a weapon to do as he sees fit. I refuse to be his or anyone else's pawn, said Yugito, scowling at the group in front of her, and their hate towards her increased several times over. Listen here, demon, we are not leaving until you come back with us one way or another back to Sound where Danzo-sama can learn the secrets of your powers, said the Anbu captain, preparing to attack with the rest of his unit. Then you are not leaving here, said Yugito, covering herself in the Nibi's power, making everyone around her hesitant to attack, seeing the hell-like flames she commanded. Our thoughts exactly, said Kimimaro, moving in quickly, king the Sound shinobi with quick clean precision that scattered their blood everywhere around him. Who the hell are you? Said someone from the Kumo side, only to see the leaf headband on his forehead before his word went dark, with the last thing he saw being sand. Do you have to ask? Said Gaara, smiling at the Kumo group, finding their now looks of fright to be quite enjoyable, since he felt this was something that was long overdue for people like Yugito, himself, and Naruto. Through these eyes I see Kumo has gotten quite sloppy as of late. If they could not sense us for the past 2 hours, they have been chasing this one. The Raikage is a fool, thinking he can enslave people just because they are different in some manner like her, and make her do what he wants rather than earn their loyalty the right way with kindness. Such a form of stupidity is inexcusable, said Neji, striking two Kumo shinobi with his gentle fist. Yeah, but that doesn't mean we can have a little fun, said Anko, using her snake and poisoned kunai to deal with the rest before they could react. So even Konoha is not beyond the greed of having more than one demon vessel, said Yugito, her demonic power flaring even further. No, that is not the case, Yugito-san, said Kimimaro, slowly approaching the woman, who he had to admit was quite beautiful in her own sly way. Oh, then why are you even here then? I doubt you did it out of the goodness of your own heart, said Yugito, looking at the albino shinobi, and tried to keep the blush from rising despite her powers hiding it. Why the hell did she feel this way towards him? While it is true we wish you to be a part of Konoha, we do not wish to take you by force, but rather to hear us out in actually coming with us back to the leaf, said Neji, seeing the Kumo headband was slashed horizontally, proving she was not with Kumo anymore. I'm sure the Hyuga clan would simply love the thought of an ex-Kumo shinobi in the leaf, considering what happened years ago. The incident still leaves a bitter taste with the Raikage even now, considering he feels he got screwed in the deal, though personally it was his fault in the first place for sending that so-called ambassador in the first place, said Yugito, seeing the Hyuga boy, knowing how the Raikage felt when Kumo got the Hyuga body, only to find that the bloodline limit they wanted was sealed away. Many things have changed in Konoha, Yugito-san, that you may not even be aware of. All of us here once hated, were hated, and out of or discriminated against things that we had no control over. Yet with the help of Namikaze Naruto, we got through it all, and he wanted us to give you the same chance as we did, said Kimimaro, walking slowly towards her, fighting off the heat she was generating. I thought your Hokage was female, said Yugito, slightly confused at the mention of this Naruto person, though she knew the last name Namikaze was infamous in its own right. That is correct, the Hokage is female, but she consulted Naruto-sama since he is just like you, and wanted to help you when he learned of your enemies hunting you for what you hold inside of you, said Kimimaro, now less than 5 feet from her, and not once did his eyes leave her, so she knew he spoke the truth. Wait a minute, now I remember where I heard that guy's name before. He is the vessel of the 9-tailed fox, said Yugito, seeing Kimimaro nod. You are correct again, Yugito-san. If you would come with us back to Konoha, we could show you how things there are different than from what you are used to back in Kumo, said Kimimaro, extending his hand to her in hopes she would take it. How do I know this isn't some trick? That you won't mess with my seal to turn me into a mindless weapon, said Yugito, eyes the man carefully, trying to sniff out a possible lie. I swear it under penalty of death at the hands of Namikaze Naruto that I am telling you the truth, said Kimimaro, looking her in the eyes, and he knew that she knew that he was telling the truth before extending his hand out for her to take. No one would dare make such a convicting statement and lie. I did hear that some things in the Leaf Village had changed, but I was unsure if the rumors were true or not, thought Yugito, lowering her power and carefully took the albino's hand. We better hurry back to Konoha. If Kumo and Sound were here, then Kazama Shishio of Akatsuki is not far behind either, said Gaara, trying to scan the area around him for the possible threat. Wait, Kazama Shishio. Is that the member of Akatsuki, who has been hunting me all this time? Said Yugito, as she had always been wondering just who was it that had been chasing her. Yes. According to our information, though, the man is now the only member of Akatsuki, yet he is by far the most powerful of them all, said Neji, seeing no point in hiding such information from the Nibi vessel, since revealing it would only compel her get to Konoha as soon as possible. Well, what the hell are we standing around here for? Let's haul ass to the Leaf Village, said Yugito, glaring at the group before Kimimaro motioned for her to follow him. Seems that Mr. Albino has a thing for Miss Kitty, said Anko, smirking as she saw the way the two interacted with each other. Konoha 2 weeks later. Naruto was sitting at home smiling as he just finished seeing his future wives put on wedding dresses and trying very hard not to have a nosebleed each time. Each dress seemed to cling to each woman, bringing out the most in terms of their physical beauty. Hell, the young swordsman was even wondering whether or not, if he should leave Jiraiya behind in Konoha so he wouldn't get any ideas to write stuff in the perverted research book of his. I suppose Ero Sennin can come, but all pens, papers, and any other writing material are going to be banned from this wedding, thought Naruto, using his Jaganai to scan the estate every few minutes for the super pervert should he try to see his future wives, as they got changed for the wedding. So far the super pervert kept himself away from the Namikaze estate, for now anyway. I thank you for letting me stay at your estate, Naruto-sama, said Yugito, as she had told him repeatedly throughout the week after she arrived in Konoha. When Yugito arrived in Konoha, she found that some people were glaring at her as they still felt hatred towards demon vessels just for whom, and what they were. At first, she believed she had been somehow deceived by Kimimaro's words and had half a mind to leave before they had her too deep in the village to get out of. However, after heading to the Hokage's office to meet both the Fire Shadow and the infamously known Namikaze Naruto, Yugito found her suspicions were not accurate at all. After the brief meeting was over, the retrieval group went its separate ways, having completed a mission, and Yugito had been offered a place to stay at the Namikaze estate after Kimimaro made a request to the Namikaze heir. Yugito didn't want to impose being the guest in the house of such a powerful shinobi, but when she found that it was the only option she had, how could she refuse? In the end, it turned out for the best, since it was the safest place for her to be considering the enemies she had. You don't have to keep thanking me every day, Yugito-san. I know how much your life sucked back in Kumo, as Gaara, and I went through similar things when we were kids. If there is anyone you should thank, it's Kimimaro here, who seems to have taken a liking to you, said Naruto, smiling at the two, who had hit it off quite well during their time in his home under the mandatory probation required of all missing nin that enter Konoha. Thank you, Kimimaro-san, said Yugito, trying to keep her blush down while the albino seemed to seem less pale when he looked back at her, smiling back as he did. I expect you to have a dress ready for the wedding, Yugito-san. Now that you are a part of Konoha, I want you to be a part of this wedding too. Kimimaro can take you as his date to event if you wish, said Naruto, seeing the two now blushing rather heavily at the sheer thought of such an idea. If things went the way they were going for Kimimaro and Yugito, then the Kaguya clan wouldn't be wiped out after all. Now there was one other piece of business that Naruto needed to take care of in the form of his father and Shizune. Namikaze estate study room. 20 minutes later. Minato was surprised to see his son visiting him in the room, since they had no real reason to talk about anything, since Naruto was one of the most mature young adult in the world. It was both a blessing and a curse due to the Yellow Flash wanting his son to enjoy his childhood, only to have it sucked away by the asshole villagers, and it was his fault on account of the ceiling. All he could do was thank Kami that things were turning out for the better, considering they could have turned out to be much worse. We have to talk, Dad, said Naruto, shutting the door behind him so the two of them could speak one-on-one without interruptions. About what? Said Minato, confused as to what Naruto wanted to talk about. About what I had said before concerning you and Shizune-san, said Naruto, making his father's eyes go slightly wide, since this subject had not been talked about for nearly 3 years. What about exactly? Said Minato, wondering what was going on in his son's head. I have been thinking things over for the past 3 years I was in Demon World concerning your relationship with Shizune. As you know, I was against it since I felt Mom was the only woman for you, and in some ways I feel she still is. However, I came to realize that your happiness was far more important than my selfishness in such beliefs. That being said, I want you to know that if you and Shizune intend to settle down together, I won't object to it since it's clear the two of you are in love, and if you want, you two can get married in other world, said Naruto, seeing the shocked expression on his father's face. Are you serious? Said Minato, who was inwardly jumping with joy while at the same time felt ashamed for putting Naruto in this situation. Quite serious. I know you love Mom and you always will, but Shizune love you and you love her too. Besides, I always wanted a younger brother or sister that will one day look up to me, said Naruto, smiling at his father, who smiled back at him. Thanks, son. I'll tell Shizune later when I get the wedding ring for her, said Minato, as he would have to be careful in getting the wedding ring for Shizune without drawing any suspicion from people around him. Don't mention it, Dad, said Naruto before turning around, leaving his father to dwell on these new events. Day of the wedding. The long-awaited day for the wedding had finally come, and the girls couldn't be happier since they were so excited to finally become wives of the great Namikaze Naruto. The night before had been horrible since it prevented any of the brides of the said man from sleeping, and only sleeping, in the same room with him. Minato had to pay them a visit in order to be put them under a sleeping jutsu to make them sleep, and then he had to do it Shizune too since she had agreed to marry him. The poor woman was so excited that the man she loved had asked her to marry him shortly after both father and son had that small, but important conversation concerning family. Naruto had woken up early to set things up with Goku, who would assist him in getting every single guest from the various places that held his guests for the wedding. It would not be easy, but in the end, Naruto knew that they could get everyone to arrive for the wedding since no one wanted to miss this special event. I'm so excited. The day's finally here, said Ino, jumping around doing her own little dance in her room after waking up from the sleep jutsu. That soon became the morning mantra for that day, as the others soon woke up with the same thoughts as Ino, and it only got more exciting from there. Within the next 3 to 4 hours all of wives-to-be had gotten ready for this big moment, having worked out how to become prepared for this moment the day they were planning for the wedding. They now stood fully dressed in their white wedding dresses ready for person, who would send them to other world to marry Naruto and allow them to become a part of the Namikaze Fuzumaki clan. Hey everyone. I'm Goku. Naruto sent me to take you to other world and to the Grand Kai's planet. So if you could all form a linked chain each other, with someone holding on to me, I can transport you all to other world right away, and get this wedding started, said Goku. Remember seeing Tenten during the tournament in other worlds some time ago. I can barely contain myself right now, thought Shizune, jumping up and down excitedly in her head with her inner Shizune in a revealing cheerleading outfit with a banner over her head that said, I'm yours Minato. In big letters. Okay, here we go, said Goku before putting his index and middle finger together on his forehead, and before anyone could blink, they all vanished like ghosts. Otherworld Grand Kai's planet. Goku dropped off the brides-to-be, Tsunade, Jiraiya, and everyone in Konoha that were going to be witnesses for this grand wedding. Incredible. Ino and Tenten both said this place was beautiful, but this is beyond belief, said Tsunade, looking at the heavenly place before her, and slightly wished Jiraiya would pinch her arm to make sure she wasn't dreaming. Slightly wished, and only her arm. Yep. No place like it, said the Grand Kai, appearing on his throne and in uniform that made him look like weird version of the Hokage. Everyone, allow me to introduce to you, the Grand Kai. He'll be the one to performing the services for this special occasion, said Goku before he used the instant transmission to gather the other people for the massive wedding taking place. It's an honor, Grand Kai, said Tsunade, bowing to great being before her, while the Grand Kai himself just let out a chuckle at her for being so polite. Oh well, that's all right, you don't have to be all polite around little old me. Hell, I wish more people acted casually around me like Goku and Naruto do when they first arrived. If everyone kept being so formal or polite, I may start to feel my own age, and considering how old I am, I would rather keep my style of feeling young in check. Now if all of you ever so lovely ladies could go get ready in the tents for one last checkup, we can get this shindig of an occasion jump started, and those that aren't getting married, please take a seat in rows reserved for you, said Grand Kai, showing the long lines of columns and rows of chairs filled with guests wanting to be here for this wedding. What about you? Said Jiraiya curiously just as he caught sight of Slade coming in with kunai wrapped around him. Me. I'm just going to chill until I have to perform the ceremony, said Grand Kai before putting on some headphones listening to some rock music while he walked around doing his own thing. What a weird guy, said Jiraiya with Tsunade nodding in agreement. He's not so bad, said a voice behind Tsunade that had not heard in over 3 decades. A little funky, but not weird, said a younger voice that was also behind her that upon hearing, made her start to cry. Dan. Nawaki, said Tsunade turning to face her once boyfriend and little brother, who had halos over their heads. Who else would we be Tsunade Haim? Orochimaru. Kami forbid. Now are you going to just gap at us like we're some figment of your imagination when you're drunk? Or are you going to come over here and give your loving family a hug? Said Dan smirking at her knowing which one she would choose. She went over to them and gave them both a bone-crushing hug. It's good thing that we're already or else that hug might have killed the both of us, said Nawaki laughing as he felt his body return to normal after the hug of death. You're just lucky she doesn't hit you with her monster strength, said Jiraiya, who then got sent into the ground by the woman's monstrous strength leaving a noticeable imprint of his pathetic form. Like that, said Tsunade, her right hand turned fist shaking in front of her. Yeah, exactly like that, said Jiraiya, who was soon sporting a large bump on his head while his face was still in the dirt beneath him. Some things never change, said Dan smiling at Tsunade, who started kissing him, as if it would be the last time she saw him. Ew, get a room you two love birds, said Nawaki scowling playfully at them before he was fortunate enough to duck and dodge his big sister's punch and moving behind once Sarutobi Sandaime for protection. Don't hide behind me. Jiraiya did enough of that when he was your age, said Sarutobi, who sighed at Tsunade grinding her teeth at Nawaki, who stuck out his tongue at her. Just remember little brother, when I'll come here, and then I'll wail on you all I want, said Tsunade smirking evilly at her little brother. That's only if King Yema lets you insist. Besides, I bet the first thing you do if you get in here is play kissy face with Dan, said Nawaki laughing at Tsunade's angry face while Dan himself shook his head at Nawaki. What do you mean if I get sent here? Why wouldn't I? Said Tsunade letting her hair go back, as if she were a perfect role model back home. Because you get drunk and boss people around like an evil witch with crazy strength that you use recklessly on people, said Nawaki in a matter-of-fact voice. What? Said Tsunade fuming at her brother's words. Finally, someone other than myself, who thinks as I do, said Jiraiya only to be hit into the ground again by Tsunade for him supporting her little brother. You stay out of this super pervert, said Tsunade, who would have continued pounding the man had Dan not stopped her and prevented her from making an even bigger scene. Now Tsunade Haim, if you keep hurting Jiraiya-san, we will have to postpone the wedding in order to have a funeral for him, and we all know how everyone who is getting married will feel about that, said Dan making Tsunade pale at that since she didn't want to fight a group of angry anxious women, who wanted to get married. That was possibly the one thing even Tsunade herself didn't want to feel the wrath of any of them, should it ever occur. Fine. I'll just have to beat his perverted ass when we get back to Konoha, said Tsunade muttering some things about lucky perverts and how they don't get all the beatings they deserve for what they do. Until then, keep your tempers in check, your perverted nature on hold, and take a seat so we can get one step closer in getting the wedding started, said Dan moving Tsunade by the hip towards their seat. Groom's tent 10 minutes later. You ready for this, son? Said Minato seeing his son all dressed in his outfit nearly ready for the wedding. Yeah, what about you? Are you ready for this? Said Naruto seeing his old man look just like him with the exception being the hair. You know Sarutobi and then later on Jiraiya asked me that very same question. Jiraiya of course was more fearful for me than anything since he really didn't want me giving up my bachelorhood, saying that I was nuts and I should try to bag more women into the Namikaze clan. Man, you should have seen Tsunade beat the crap out of him when she found out about that, said Minato laughing at the memory while knowing he also had the picture of the wedding with Jiraiya in a body cast and Tsunade drinking right next to him. I take it from the fact that you married mom that you said yes to old man Hokage, said Naruto, who along with his father started laughing since he saw the wedding photo. Today was a good day to get married. Bride's tent at the exact moment. I'm so excited, said Tenten squealing with glee. Are you all right, Shizune-san? said Haku, seeing the woman was looking in the mirror looking slightly worried. Yes, I was just a little worried about Konoha. With Tsunade-sama not at her post, and most of its strongest protectors not in it, I couldn't help but fear its enemies may attack, said Shizune, wishing she just bury her worries for the moment, while her inner Shizune, now in a wedding dress, was taking a large cartoonish shovel, and proceeded to pound on a grave with a tombstone that had, worries, written on it. Oh, you mean Danzo team and those assholes that followed him from Konoha. Don't you worry your head off about that. From what Kimimaro told me this morning, Naruto came in contact with his spy in sound, and gave the order for their immediate death, said Tayuya, smirking at them, knowing that such news was news to them, though they were sure that Naruto was going to tell them later. After the honeymoon, of course. Sound Village at the moment. Danzo lay with his head face forward on his desk, blood coming out from the sword to his teeth from behind him, and the figure holding the weapon was none other than the late Sound Shadow's most loyal subordinate. Sai. Sai was an emotionless shinobi and had been since he first became a member of Root and under Danzo's command, despite the order for the unit to be disbanded by the Sandaime. However, as time progressed, Sai had a sense to learn, to feel things he didn't quite understand, and strangely enough it came from the one person his former master had ordered him to spy on the moment the boy came back from his 1-year absence from the village when he was younger. The mission was simple. Find out how the boy got so strong without making him learn of your presence, and if possible, list all weakness to every jutsu or skill the boy uses when facing his enemies, and then report back to Danzo for further instructions. That had been the original mission, but all mission plans changed the instant the boy was getting quite the noticeable portion of the opposite S, and Sai, being ever so curious, had to find out about this curious bond this boy was forming with all these girls around his age. By the time Danzo had fled, Sai had decided to switch sides to Tsunade in hopes of being able to embrace such emotions that Naruto displayed around others. The young shinobi had given the Hokage vital information concerning Danzo during the 3 years since he broke away from Konoha to replace Orochimaru as its new leader. It wasn't until he got the signal from Naruto, who Sai knew Naruto would one day replace Tsunade as Hokage without question, and decided to follow the order to assassinate all key influential parties in Sound Village without question. Now with Danzo all that remained were Homura and Koharu, who were no doubt both sleeping in the same bed together now that they had younger boss once more. Sai didn't know why they didn't just accept death gracefully like normal people do, since it's much easier to do than fighting one's inevitable death. It didn't matter to Sai, as he pulled out his sword, and headed for the two lovers' private room to end the lives of the two lovebirds. If they are lucky, then the saggy S-male and the wrinkled L-female will be allowed to continue their little romance in hell, thought Sai, walking amongst the shadows of the hallway with no one in sight. Otherworld, Grand Kai's planet. Naruto suddenly smiled, as he felt a tingling sensation in his spinal column that was filled with happiness and delight that his instincts told him everything back home was going all according to plan. No more Danzo team or the other two traitors to worry about when he got back to Konoha, and his friend Yusuke had promised to have some of his most trusted demon allies keep tabs on Iwa today should they decide to be bold again. Son, it's time, said Minato, hearing the music playing before he and Naruto made their way outside the tent to get into position for when the wedding would start. I'm just glad time has no meaning in Otherworld or on this planet. The honeymoon is going to be wicked, said Naruto silently to his father, who smirked at his son, knowing that it would be considering soon to be wives of the Namikaze clan. With the grooms in position, the music for the brides began to play, and one by one the row of beautiful women set to marry Naruto and the one for his father came out glowing. The reaction of seeing them caused many eyes widen, jaws slacking, and Jiraiya getting sent flying in the process from the massive nosebleed he was suffering. When they all got together, it was time for the ceremony to begin, with the Grand Kai now getting off his large techno-looking throne before standing in front of the two grooms and many brides before him. Clearing his tea, and for once among the many rare occasions he actually was professional, the great ruler of his own planet that watched over each of the 4 King Kais began the ceremony. People of the living world, Otherworld, and Demon World, I thank you for being here on this truly outstanding day. We are gathered here to join this incredibly large group of people into the bonds of eternal and holy matrimony, where they will spend the rest of their living days together until death do they part, only to be together again when their partners said Grand Kai, laughing, as a drum went off in the background with everyone sweat dropping at his joke. And I thought King Kai of the North's jokes were bad, thought Naruto having met as well as punched the man for one of his bad jokes, and threatened to burn off his antennas if he did it again around him. "Quck screwing around and marry us already," yelled the angry trio of Tayuya, Temari, and Tenten, while Hinata held Ino's mouth shut and Haku with Kins. No one needed to be depth during the wedding. Okay, there's no need to get your dresses all ruffled, said the Grand Kai, as he wished people would have a better sense of humor these days. Answer, the Grand Kai continued with the ceremony, and making this one of the greatest day for the heroes of Konoha. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.